We start off as usual with prayer for teacher and student. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunatu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditam Astu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us both. May we work together with great energy. May our study be illumined. May we not unnecessarily cavil with each other. Peace, peace, peace beyond all. The Art of Meditation is actually taken from a book by Joel Goldsmith called Art of Meditation. It is written in a Christian style and yet with profound ancient ideas derived from the Vedanta philosophy, Vedanta yoga philosophy. Last night we asked a question, what has yoga to do with health and wellness? And the general reply was, well, pretty much everything. My reply is hardly anything. Because the term yoga actually describes not only a philosophy, but a process. The process itself is called meditation. And the kind of yoga is called dhyana yoga or raja yoga. Dhyana means meditation. And it comes through in Chinese, Dhyan, and comes through in Japanese, Zen. Zen, when you hear of Zen Buddhism, it's entirely centered around this aspect of yogic meditation. So there's a great deal of confusion about this word meditation. And I want to try and make this active. So can you tell me what, randomly, whoever wants to, what you understand by the word meditation? Starting now.
Stillness.
Stillness. All right, well, a rock is still. Is it meditating?
I don't know.
Any other ideas about meditation? But I like your answer, by the way.
Being in the present time, in the moment.
In the present time, in the moment, yes. Any other thing?
Practice that ideally takes you to a place where the practice disappears.
Okay, all good answers. Yeah. There's a lot of misunderstanding about meditation, and that's why we have to describe it as an art. So let me tell you what is not meditation. Keeping the mind blank is not meditation.
Is it repetition of something, Swamiji?
Repetition of something? Well, we can
repetition of thoughts.
We can repeat alcoholic drink, and that's not really useful. Repetition of thoughts. What kind of thoughts?
Positive thoughts, or focusing on something and repeating the same thing.
So I'm going to tell you something else. Meditation is not focus.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let us try to describe what we mean by meditation. Meditation is described in various ways, but Joel Goldsmith, whose book I'm quoting from, has a beautiful definition. And it can be repeated as an affirmation also. Meditation, he says, is a song of gratitude. That God is here, God is now, God is love. Now you may not like the word God, you can put any other word there, of course. But this is a kind of meditation called theistic meditation. That means there are two types of meditation. One is theistic, one is not. One is to do with an impersonal abstract aspect of it. And there are so many different types of meditation. Why? Because we're all constitutionally different. And therefore we find our own style of meditation. But there are some broad commonalities in all meditation. And that is why this book, Raja Yoga, which is really a commentary on the philosophy of yoga, that's contained in what we call Patanjali Yoga Sutras. Sutra means a thread, a basic aphorism, a kind of saying to be expanded upon, maybe consisting of one or two words or a phrase. There, meditation is described in the second sutra. In the first sutra, the word atta is mentioned, that means now. In other words, a lot of people have discussed meditation, but several thousand years ago, a specialist in it, wanting to clarify and consolidate ideas and which act as a process, says, now I'm going to tell you about meditation and I'm going to be systematic about it. And then meditation really he describes as concentration. That means he uses the term yoga. Yoga, therefore, in this context means concentration. And concentration to the nth degree, we can define as a sense of the absence of time. You must have noticed. If you think this is engaging, hopefully you will, then you'll look at your watch and say, oh, where did all the time go? I never noticed. So all discoveries really are to do with concentration. Concentration, so yoga, nivritti, nirodha, that means that keeping the mind, in other words, when the mind is perfectly still and there's only one thought left, so it's not exactly stillness, described as like oil being flowing continuously from one place to another without any interruption. At that point is meditation. In other words, most of what we define as meditation is really just a convenience term. It's not actually meditation. Meditation as a process is like taking a flight above the clouds. You have to construct a runway. So that if you say, I meditate for, let's say, an hour, you might find that 50 minutes of it is preparation and 5 or 10 minutes is meditation. Why is that? It's because the mind is part of nature and nature runs on certain laws. The one law that nature runs on, called the second law of thermodynamics, the law of entropy, if you will, that things naturally go from orderliness to chaos. We can't prevent it. That is why the body dies. It goes from central simplicity and orderliness to dispersion. We call this mortality, death, or aging, you must have noticed in your mirror. All right. So is there a way that we reverse it? Yes. Not aging, that's irreversible. All of you had some tea or something today. The tea was hot. You'll notice it doesn't get hotter, it gets colder. This is called the second law of thermodynamics. And the reason for it is because what we think of as a cup of tea is actually made from tiny, tiny points called atoms. And they all start becoming much more active when they're heated. And they start moving around and jumping around and banging into each other and transferring that heat that results to the next generation of atoms. And as it does, it spreads out and becomes less and less concentrated. So it's natural that we're suffering from lack of concentration, or what is called a condition of scatteredness. The mind is naturally scattered, so that people find it difficult to meditate because they don't realize it's an art that has to be cultivated. And so typically I cannot meditate. As soon as I sit down for meditation, I think maybe a nice green field or something. And then I think, did I put my green jersey in the washing machine? And then other things, and Some people I see are naive. That's also called green. And so it goes off, and before you know it, you think, what happened? I was trying to think of something beautiful and glorious. And then it went off in all kinds of different directions. Let me try and stabilize it. And then I get impatient and I go away. And so the key component to concentration is missing, because unless we're ordered in our normal waking life, there's no hope of sitting down without 99% of our day crowding in. And therefore, meditation does not begin with sitting. Meditation begins with approaching life in a new way, so that we find we can fill up continuously with positives. And when we fill up continuously with positives, then we're able to steady the mind a little bit more. So we have to deal with our problem in situ. If we don't do that, we'll be sitting down and growling at God. So we require a system, and there's an eightfold system that Patanjali describes. It doesn't begin with sitting. It begins with control. Now, there are a number of other sources we can use. You may have heard of the Bhagavad Gita. 6th chapter of that is dedicated to concentration or meditation. It doesn't begin with sitting. It begins with a way of viewing the world. And it's very, very simple, but not easy to implement. Now, at the fundamental level of what we call ourselves is what we call an internal, undefined, unconditioned self. And this is the basis of our Vedanta and yoga philosophy, that there's something unchanging that witnesses all the changes going on. So that, you must have noticed, you can never ever see yourself in totality. Have you ever seen yourself? People say, oh yes, I see myself in the mirror. No. You only saw your reflection. The real person is the one looking. So the one that sees can never be seen. The one that knows can never be known. Don't try to find it. It's already there. It just has the coverings on the top. And then in exploring the nature of the self, it requires a practical step of taking off all the coverings. And we mentioned this last night when we said that your whole job is just cleaning. What are you? I'm a spiritual person. Well, what is your actual? I'm a cleaner. That's all. Purifying the body, purifying the mind, that's all we have to do. We have to do cleaning jobs, purification of the mind. And this purification as a first step is called control. There has to be a certain control. You must have noticed if you don't apply brakes in a car, you're in for trouble. So there has to be some kind of control of life and some reason why we should do it. This is called technically yama. Means control. Now, if we don't take control of life or nature, nature will control us. And the inner nature we described as mind. So mind has to be controlled. And last night we used the example of the monkey mind, a common term, but really misunderstood because it's not always in a scattered condition. And the one thing that we can do is defy these laws. Only the humans have the capacity to transform discord into harmony. And we do it because we are not part of nature intrinsically at the deepest level. No more than you are part of your car. And if you think you are, there's no hope of controlling it. So how is it that we've made a mistake which says, I am a body-mind complex, clearly made from parts like a car, an aggregate of things, and we've said, this is me. So we have to understand, make a clear distinction between a subject and object, a controller and a thing that is controlled. something that is seen and something that is a seer. And this is called discernment or discrimination. We call it viveka. That has to be applied. So 5 principles that should be applied to, in practice, make a control. So let's discuss what these are. Of course, in the allocated time, I will not be able to give the whole of this subject, art of meditation, because I'm trying to squeeze the fundamentals of it, 2 days worth, into a few minutes. So there are these 5 components. Let us start off with the first one in an order that Patanjali puts it. You've all heard of ahimsa, yes? Non-injury. Non-injury is a negative term. On the other side of it must be something positive. What is the basis for non-injury? And we can easily injure people by thought, by word, by deed. How can you injure somebody by thought? Well, you have to understand a holistic principle that actually fundamentally there is no separation between any of us. This is true in the atomic world, it's true in the energetic world, and it's true in the spiritual world. There is only one spirit. And that spirit, when it's connected with a sense of individuality, is called your immortal self, authentic self. Technically, we call it Atman in Vedanta. In yoga, we call it Purusha, means person. We can apply a kind of creative view of it, an approach which is useful. We can think of this body like a city containing 11 gates. I'm quoting Katha Upanishad here. 11 gates, 7 in the head, and then navel provides 1, the source of birth, the order of procreation, order of organ of evacuation, and then some peculiar royal entrance here at the top of the head. Total 11. Eyes, ears, mouth, nose, 7 of them, and then the rest. Belonging to what? If you have a city, it must belong to something. So Katha Upanishad tells us it belongs to one who is ajna, unborn, whose consciousness is unflickering, like a flame. A flame is always flickering. Imagine a flame that never flickers, that is always steady, and that is something like an emperor or an empress sitting. By its presence, everything in the body runs. And later on this weekend, we want to discuss health. Well, one of the principal things we have to understand is the body knows what to do. Left by itself, without our interference or mismanagement, that inner entity that is ruling the city, by its presence, knows what to do. And everything that emanates from it knows what to do. It's a well-known fact that if a supervisor leaves a workplace and goes on holiday, all the workforce start relaxing. When the supervisor comes back, initially everybody may pretend to work and then actually work because results are required. So as long as there's a presence there, all the thing works well. And so you can think of it like a monarch in the city. Now you see, if the city is kept clean, let us say, for example, London, there's an important visitor, I don't know, let's say the USA President Biden is visiting, then all the USA flags are put up and all the graffiti is removed and the streets are cleaned and all the rest of it. All the gold at Buckingham Palace is enhanced and so on and so forth. So when you visit and you see all this, the next question is the president already here? Or is he coming tomorrow? The mistake might be he's coming tomorrow, because when he's here, you don't take all the flags down and put the graffiti back. So cleaning the mind is because the royal person is already here. And the opposite of non-injury is love. So all religious systems, some of you make a distinction between religion and spirituality, but behind organized religion, with all its flaws and failures, is a search for spirit and an acknowledgement that some fundamental principle is there. And if you take the details of it, then unfortunately we start fighting, and religion then becomes distorted. And the love that is supposed to be there is gone. So behind that should be this principle: each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity you may add from within, controlling nature, internal and external. You can do this by a number of means. Why a number of means? Because if we're talking about the mind, we're talking about at least 4 faculties. We're talking about the capacity to think. We're talking about the capacity to feel. We're talking about capacity to will and make decisions and act. And we have the capacity to balance everything. That's called meditation. These are called 4 yogas. One or more or all of these and be free. You can do it by philosophy. You can do it by meditation. You can do it by worship of God. You can do it by action, selfless service, one or more of all of these. And because we're not exclusively one or the other, we should probably do all of them. And be free. Be free from what? Be free from all the things that you're battling with at the moment. Struggle, confusion, despondency, all of these kinds of things. Well, you have the capacity to transform discord into harmony, and you'll find other examples in nature that can do this. You see, you can have a little seed that is there in compost. As you know, compost is not the most pleasant smelling thing. And yet, from there can grow a tomato plant or a flower. The flower doesn't turn around to its origin, its material for growth, and say, "Oh, teacher, thank you very much. I wish I smelled like you." The flower will say, "Thank you very much. I used you well. I used all your material. I was able to transform it nicely. And I now am able to spread a perfume better smelling than yours and provide a free landing platform for insects and bees to land on, gain the pollen and what have you, distribute it, make honey from it and so on, and create a nice variety for all eyes to see, for the beauty to be appealing to everybody, and the fragrance I generously spread everywhere. You don't need a license to smell me or an application. I'm generous enough to give to everybody. Can we be like that? What is the base for generosity and love? It is the insight that says, underneath everything is this immortal self. And tuning into that, tuning in the attention into the glory of this self that religion calls God, that has to be practiced. If that is practiced, if that tuning in is practiced, meditation is just a concentrated version of it. So we have to cultivate this love for everyone in thought and word and deed. And thought is the most powerful thing that we have. It transforms things instantaneously, and there's a science behind it. And then truthfulness. That means thought, word, and deed has to match. And truthfulness includes truthfulness about your own nature. And then, of course, we have to cultivate a sense of honesty, which says that we have to attribute everything we have not to ourselves, but to some other thing. You don't have energy of your own. It's all borrowed from the sun. Please don't think that you're an individual or special about this. We're all running on canned sunshine, borrowed energy from the sun. Finished. This is not our body. We have to re-register it. In approaching meditation, we have to replace I and me and my body and so on and so forth as something like God's temple or royal housing or whatever you like. And as with housing, you cleaned it on the outside, is what I said last night. And you decorate it on the inside as well. You do this through diet and exercise and all the rest of it. This is where yoga, in terms of hatha yoga and asanas and all that, comes in. It's only a way of internally cleaning. That's all. We'll discuss this later when we talk about health. And then, of course, we have to have, so non-stealing is one of these things, non-stealing. Then we have to have self-control of all the senses. It means self-control of the mind, because the queen bee of the senses is the mind. And that means we have to make an assessment and put in some discipline. Some discipline has to be there, that instead of the senses running toward some kind of object because of an internal misunderstanding where we feel we need a compensation of some kind. So how does this nature work? It works on two genetic directives. One directive is that we are successful when we reproduce. The reproduction faculty is there for every single being in order to perpetuate the species. That's how we survive. And then secondly, eating and drinking, breathing and so on, keeping this thing alive. If our attention is only on this level, we are no better than a dog, because a dog, sorry, apologies to your dog, but because nobody can enjoy food more and more voraciously with greater appetite than a dog. But what makes us distinguished from this, we have the capacity to transcend these genetic directives. And this is called self-control. And so if it wasn't like that, if it was essential for these two genetic directives, then all the great saints and sages would be absolute failures, according to the evolutionary theory. Because Jesus, as far as we know, never reproduced. And he wasn't interested in entertaining the senses. He was interested in what is called renunciation. Renunciation doesn't mean going away into a monastery and living in a cave. Renunciation means I'm not attached to things that hook me in to endorsing a false reality, attracting me, forgetting that fullness is already with me, that I have a kind of sense of a hollow inside me, a gap inside me, unfulfillment that has to be topped up from the outside. It's called desire. And in order to control that, we have to think differently. That is, we don't have to be fulfilled since we are already fulfilled, already full, already free, already perfect. We just don't know it. A clue is there, or the fact that we assert ourselves as I is part and parcel of an unconscious understanding about it. We know it already, but we've misidentified it. It's like watching a movie and identifying with it. Now we watch movies and we know how it works. A tragedy is there in the movie and weeping takes place. And what will you find? We, the one who is supposed to be entertained, we find tears rolling down our cheeks. Taking this, what we're watching, for a reality, forgetting that it was filmed in a warehouse with false scenery and a director shouting, action, and do it again, and lines that were to be rehearsed, and dressing up, let's say, in medieval costume, enacting a drama. And we take all these units of a film, individual still pictures, that runs fast enough for the eyes to see it as a continuum. It's called time. And we say, oh, that's our reality. We have to reassess what is our reality. And that is why we study things like scripture. That is why we analyze things from a science point of view to see what is the real thing going on. We would never suspect that we had an atomic world. At breakfast this morning, I posed an interesting question. I think it was interesting because it was my question. So what is the smallest thing you've ever seen or observed? You see? And we came to things like a grain of sand, something you look under a microscope, perhaps. We have many examples of fine hair, On the cheek, you have hairs, Whether you're male or female, hairs are there. You don't all have to be bearded people to observe them. You can pluck one of these fine hairs, chop it into 1,000 pieces, and put it under an electron microscope, and there you'll see the nucleus of a cell, what we call DNA, the genome, that has your whole architectural plan within it. It's all unseen and taken for granted. So you see, the last part of the yam will be being independent-minded. It's interpreted as non-receiving of gifts. In other words, not being dependent on anything. It's not that you should not receive a gift, it's that you should not be obliged. Somebody gives me €1 million, then I have to say, okay, now you own me. Please take it back. I don't want it. I'm obliged to you now. I'm now your servant. So these are some fundamental principles. And we have to master them because most people want 8 steps are there. Most people want to jump to the 7th step, which is called meditation. You can't do it unless you go through all the others. That's not to say you shouldn't sit down and try. Yes, you should all allocate some time. And then there's a refinement to that, observances, purifying the body, purifying the mind, cultivating a sense of contentment equivalent to thankfulness. And that means that you really have to count your blessings, not ignore them. At the end of every day, learn the habit of assessing what went on the day and counting your blessings. And one of the things, it's a nice day here, one of the things we have to do today is simply take a mindful walk around those premises and find out what new experience you have. And learn to see something with a new eye. Observe it properly. Don't take it for granted. Appreciate it as a result, and thankfulness will come up inside you. This formula has to be applied, and then the mind gets steadied and is ready now for an exploration of its own to the inner worlds. A succession of thoughts which lead you to a position of poise. That is called meditation. It's a process of self-discovery. It's finding out the light which enlightens everything. That discovery process is absolutely necessary. But the preparation for it is also necessary. So when you ask people, you like meditation? Yes. Do you meditate every day? Some say yes, some say no. Do you meditate at the same time every day? Some say yes, some say no. All of this is necessary to cultivate a habit. And the next thing is, what is the process of doing it? So I can tell you what is not meditation. Meditation is keeping the mind, what is not meditation is keeping the mind blank. So I often hear, I can't meditate. Why? I find it difficult to empty the mind. Who said you should empty the mind? It's not a garbage can that you should empty. It's an active thing. You have to take the advantage of this thought, which is normally scattered, and bring it in and concentrate it. And it has the potency of a laser beam. It becomes a revealer. It becomes the lamp that reveals everything else. The mind itself becomes a lamp. And so while we may say monkey mind and acknowledge its scatteredness, We have the capacity to draw all this in and concentrate it. And normally on a Saturday, we talk about the Ramayana and so on. And Hanuman is there as a character. He's also a monkey. But you see, with tremendous strength and unparalleled in faith and devotion and so on. Because you see, the act of devotion, love of God, if you will, has its concentrating effect. Now, I mentioned two types of meditation there. One is a devotional type, described by Joel Goldsmith, a song of gratitude that God is here, God is now, God is love. This is the sweetest of all kinds of meditation. And so this is common to most people. Most people find this the easiest way. That means then that there must be some special kind of aspect that you love the most that describes something that has no moving parts and no change in time. No evolution in time and no separation in space. We don't know of anything like that in our normal experience, except in one phase of our consciousness that is called deep sleep. Hopefully you all had some of it last night. And you wake up in the morning and said, I had a peaceful sleep. What was it? I don't know. It was a blank. Why is it a blank? It's a blank because there's no second person to fight with. It's a unity, it's a united experience. There's no time in it, there's no space in it. But this is not meditation, because you go into a deep sleep, a fool, and you wake up a fool. Nothing changed. So, yeah, you must have noticed.
I did.
Okay, and in between, there's a combination, sleep and memory. We call it dream. This is the intermediate phase. So we have to cultivate this contentment, this thankfulness, this purity of mind, and then we have to direct our willpower. This is called tapasya or austerity. We have to deliberately take a commanding position on our physical self, on our mind, and on our speech. These three things. And this happens in your daily life. And then the next thing will be posture. Posture. This is another reason why we practice this yoga exercise, in order to sit without concentrating on your arthritic knee. So make the body healthy, because it's not yours. You're duty bound to keep the earth car in pristine condition. That is why we'll introduce the idea of health later on. So sitting there, how should we sit? Well, of course, the yogis will. You see, the whole purpose of this asana is to develop postures for meditation, where the hips are pushed forward and the spine is made erect. And in this posture, you are relaxed but alert, because this process of meditation is an active process. It is not squashing the thought with dull repetition or anything like that. It's constructing a beautiful scene that leads you on a pilgrim journey to the inner place of poise. And you can take any theme you like. Patanjali suggests a number of different ones. You can visualize a light inside you. Location is important. For impersonal meditation, it is the forehead which is the location for meditation. But for most people, it'll be what the spiritual heart, described as the cave of the heart, where this self resides, the size of a thumb. It's not that it's restricted, it's just for visualization purposes. Creative imagination, therefore, is important, not only in waking life, but also in meditation. and brings you to a point of reality where imagination and the actuality actually become the same thing. Because we're all suffering from wrong imagination. We're imagining all kinds of situations in the future and creating stress for ourselves. And we are plagued by guilt and all doubt and all things from the past. Instead of saying the past I cannot change, we leave it there. And the future hasn't arrived yet. And the future I can creatively formulate myself by putting in useful thoughts now, in a series, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. That's the art. That is why I call meditation a game of guiding thought. It's not keeping the mind blank. It's not fixing it on one thing. It's using the stream of thoughts in a positive way that directs me closer and closer to areas that are more subtle, more expansive, and more real, until finally there's one reality there. And when all thought is gone, this we call samadhi. Number 8 step in Patanjali's eightfold process. Now, if you ask people what difficulties you have in meditation or the consistency of it, these are some common answers. I don't have the time. I'm not in the mood. That is the most common one, by the way. I'm not in the mood. I don't see the point. I can't make my mind blank. Misunderstanding of the whole process. So you see, in meditation, there is no I and mine. There's no personal pronoun in it, and no future tense. These are the two rules. No personal pronoun, no future tense. Don't think that you're gaining anything or doing it to get something, because meditation is an expression of who you are now. It's an expressive process. And therefore, the term trying to meditate means you're not meditating. Struggle to meditate, no, you've missed the point. Is the illustration of it? Oh, yes. When you go around the garden here, or when you go on your nature walks, you don't want to take so-called observed nature. It may be a scene, or a sunrise, or a sunset, or flowers, or grasses, or trees. You don't want to take that and put it into your pocket. The greatest disadvantage that we have sometimes is modern technology. People go on holiday, and the first thing they do is bring the camera out. And as soon as they're taking a picture, they're depriving themselves an opportunity for appreciating the actual thing. The smell, the sight, the texture. All of this is missing. I'll take a photograph and put it in an album and show my friends. Send it immediately. We used to joke, you see, about tourists. Let's say in Paris, Notre Dame, beautiful place, you know, 2 Japanese tourists. I'll do the inside, you do the outside. So we're based with abstract things with no tangibility, and therefore no appreciation, or less appreciation. Maybe we want to capture it in our memory. I can tell you how to make a photograph without a camera. Look at something deeply with appreciation and do this. Now you've taken your snap. Now it's in your memory. You can bring it back anytime. In meditation, we select elevating experiences from our memory and bring it back and use it. And anything we take, we should understand, is a fragmented version of what is fundamentally the reality. And this is our misunderstanding. It's designed to be like that, otherwise your life stops. But we can transcend it. So what we see through space and time is nothing more than fragmented God. It's not that God is some being above the clouds or something like that. You may have had that when you're a child, but you need to outgrow these ideas and get to a better understanding. that if there's something, and I'm not shy to use the word God. Some people don't like it. That's okay. You use another term. It doesn't matter. Infinite invisible. Joel Goldsmith loves that term. I also like it. The infinite invisible. But it's all right. You can call it God if you like. And so this one being is manifesting itself as our common experience, as the universe. We have to get used to the idea, not just as a concept, but see it. So that when you go and take your walk in nature, there you will see God. And when people go on a walk as part of our normal program, you'll know over the last, is it 2 years? I can't, well, amazing. Then you see my question is, did you see God? No, I saw the sea, I saw this, I saw that. Yeah. You saw God dressed up like this, and your appreciation, your aesthetic appreciation for what it is because inside you was mobilized this inherent understanding. Ah, there you are. There was so there's one devotee, no names, but they know who they are. Oh, when will I see God? I want a vision of God, and so on and so forth. Missing the idea, wherever you look, it's there. Whatever you hear, it's there. Whatever you touch and taste, is there. Did you notice it? Did you have a penetrating vision that went beyond the superficial thing, the atomic level, and go underneath and see, ah, there you are. And with that, there you are, that aha moment, there you found God. And you know it because there's an internal rapture that happens. And when that internal rapture is perpetuated, it's called meditation. So meditation, I go back to the original definition Joel Goldsmith gives. Song of gratitude that God is here, God is now, God is love. Now, one way, practical way, then of getting in the mood. And when I do a meditation workshop, I give people 18 mood creators. How to artificially get in the mood. And so one person here, I'm not mentioning names, has beautifully brought some gongs, either gongs or massive plates. And we have a bowl here and so on and so forth. So music is the quickest mood creator. We can shift our mood immediately through music. Chanting, mantras with meaning. Mantras have to have meaning. Through possibly picking up a book. One of the exercises I want to do this weekend is give you the freedom to completely disrupt Puna's library here. Select a book at random, open it at random, and see what we have. Okay? So scriptural reading, or even a talk like this, or a guided meditation, all of these can be mood creators, but primarily is to select an environment. Meditation will not happen if you do not have a space for it. In your home, which you can consider and revise as your temple, where you take your shoes off. You see, my shoes are off, all our shoes are off. The burning bush said to Moses, take your shoes off. The ground on which you stand is holy ground. All ground is holy if you take it this way. And so by doing that, by creating a physical environment, a place where you have suitable symbols or pictures relevant to you, make it simple, don't make it cluttered. Something where you can place flowers, an area where no argument takes place. If you can afford a room separate for it, you do it. If not, a corner of your house. And if not there, then nature itself. and go there at the same time every day, ideally 5 times a day. If you really want spirituality, 5 times a day practice, that will do it. Anyway, if you can't do that, then at least twice a day, morning and evening. And if you can't do that, at least once a day. And in any event, your whole day is meditation with eyes open. Meditation sitting is the same with eyes closed, that's all. Meditation in the day is seeing God in everything and everyone. Meditation by yourself is seeing God in yourself. Therein just lies the difference. Otherwise, your whole life is meditation. It should be like that. After all, we're all meditating, but probably on Brexit. So leave it like that. Or whatever it is. Okay? Or meditation on some person did this to me. A whole range of thoughts. So we have to, during the day, continue the art or the game of guiding thought, noticing what is prominent at any given moment in the mental field. And playing a game like this of scoring. What it means is this, and I give you an example you're all familiar with because I've given it multiple times before. Supposing you have 20 seconds available, 20 blank checks available, called seconds. And naturally, while brushing your teeth in the morning, your mind wanders off to the person who criticized you at the office or whatever, or a family member or something like that, an awkward person possibly. And so your range of thought might go, how dare they say this? When I meet them, I give them a piece of my mind. I may even put poison in their coffee. And so, like all that, four wasted seconds. Now make God your scorekeeper. Lord, how's it going? How's my bank balance? Well, -4. Okay, but 20 seconds are available. So another 16 seconds are there. I put in values: strong, true, wise, full, free, truth, beauty, goodness, love, appreciation, a sense of aesthetic beauty, thankfulness. Put all that in. Next, how's it? Well, you have -4. Okay, we covered that. But you have 16 pluses. Oh, wonderful. Net balance +12. Put it in your fixed deposit account, in your memory, in your unconscious mind, and build up your bank balance in this way. There's no holiday for it. But it is a game, which means you should delight in it. And your whole mood gets elevated. So make sure you have a place for sitting. Make sure that you sit there on a regular basis. Make sure that your environment is good. If you like, you can use, because the mind is not easy to control and don't expect it to happen overnight, 1,000 tools you can use. Scriptural readings, talks that are useful and truthful, music, as I say, chanting, and so on, all of these things. And if you have a gong, we can use that also, to a gentle gong, okay, so that we can feel. See, music and mantras are all vibrations. Speech is inherently vibration. We're surrounded by vibrations, seen and unseen, known and unknown. Because the whole universe is actually an oscillation of waves. The ancient people knew that, understood that. They called these waves tanmatras, subtle elements. Modern science has various names for them, and they call them oscillations, having certain frequencies. The electromagnetic wave system is an entire different combination of waves classified according to their frequency as gamma rays, X-rays, the visible spectrum, the infrared, ultrasound, and so on and so forth, subsonic sound. All of this is part of one wave system. Light itself is included. So all of this is a magnificent field. And that means then that there's no scope for disturbance in meditation, because if you take all these things as nothing more than variations of waves and seemingly split up so that our eyes can see and our ears can hear and we can identify individualities in space and time and so on. If you really understand that, of course, then you can surf on the positive waves completely. And then there's no separation between anything. A thought that you put out will have its immediate effect. If you hate, you'll be hated. If you love, you'll be loved. So directing things in this way, in a positive way, making that a habit, and using all the tools available that you have. You may require 1,000 tools, it's okay. Take them all or select whatever you want, according to your individual temperament and personality. Now, there's another aspect to this, and I finish off shortly, and that is physiologically, if your mind is disturbed, your whole body will be disturbed. Every cell of the body will be disturbed. And that translates to the nervous system. And so to control the nervous system, there's a technical term that we use, because energy, according to the ancient yogis, had a term, it was called prana. Prana means simply energy. Ask any scientist what is energy, no one has a clue. Ask how to use it, everyone has a clue. So harnessing energy and using it, the yogis understood and knew how to direct this energy and called it control of energy or pranayama. And so, you know yourself, if you're upset, you feel a little out of balance. It means the whole nervous system is out of balance. And deep breathing assists, regulates it, because the first thing that you'll notice if you're out of balance or upset or stressed is the breathing becomes irregular. And these are noticed, signs of grief, signs of disturbance, irregular breathing, and so on and so forth, is all mentioned by Patanjali. And so deep breathing. Now, can you manage energy without the deep breathing? Absolutely. If you think of a beautiful scene, let's say a sunrise or sunset, without wanting to put it in your pocket or criticize it. Criticize it means, lovely scene, but you know what? God made him. He should have put a little bit more mauve here, a little more red here, like that, you see. So, no, you just admire it, see for what it is. Can there be any disturbance in meditation? No, because everything that you understand and appreciate is a manifestation of that divine. So there's no such thing as disturbance in meditation, because everything that comes into your mind, let's say randomly, can be grasped and analyzed back to its origin, and there you'll find the infinite invisible. Take any strand and take it back, there you'll find it. The art of meditation is the art of doing that. Well, I could go on forever, and I probably will. But anyway, thank you. So we leave it.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Good.
Thank you so much.